Boy in Green. Chapter 8. Father, we have to heal the tree. Just let me. No, Zalilia. You need to be home. King Atmos shouted, Hook is out there murdering our people as we speak. And you are the princess. You can't parade around like this. Normally, Zalilia would have dropped it and gone home defeated, but this time, she boiled over. No. You listen. Don't you see what Peter has done for the tree already? He has gotten 2 of the stones the tree needs. That wasn't done by your hand. And guess what, we found the last stone that will heal it completely. Peter Pan was a children's story your great-grandma told in her old age. She only claimed she had a vision from the Creator. Wendy was a hag. Zalilia pursed her lips and reached into Peter's bag, yanking out the stone. She then dashed to the tree. The knights tried to stop her, but Nibs broke free and pushed the knights away, giving her enough time to touch the roots. Golden light shined over the tree and it grew brighter and brighter along with the 2 stones already placed by the tree. Color filled the dead trees around the island. Blossoms bloomed on them and green grass arose from the ground as it returned to its former glory. Once all the rot disappeared, the light faded, but the island remained brighter than beforehand. King Atmos stared in awe at the great pixie tree as he fell to his knees. My Creator, I'm so sorry, he said, then he turned to Peter, and to you, I have been a disaster of a king. I owe both you and my daughter an apology. Peter bowed to King Atmos and said humbly, I understand, Your Majesty. It isn't easy to believe the words of others with no proof. King Atmos stood and said proudly, I shall make you the protector of this tree. He then stared at the rest of the boys, along with the rest of you. The boys smiled, happy to hear the news. They didn't want to get cast onto Dark Island, so this was by far a better outcome. However, Michael and John looked at Zalilia with sad eyes. King Atmos would bring her back to the castle, and they would never see her again. If it isn't too much to ask, Your Majesty, but can Zalilia stay as our mother? Michael pleaded in his soft voice. Your mother? She's nearly the same age as you, King Atmos said, scrunching his face in confusion at the request. His expression softened when he turned to Zalilia, noticing her downcast appearance. That is up to her. A gap was left in Zalilia's mouth as she perked up. You're letting me decide? King Atmos nodded. I think it is about time the darling family let someone else rule. Your eldest cousin will make a great king over Terranil. He is a fine fairy and I'm afraid our race won't last long after the mass murder Hook has committed. And if the Creator has bestowed power upon you, you must stay by the tree's side. Slightly pounded his fist into his hand. Hook must pay. Why don't we go and crush him? Tink told us where he is. King Atmos gave a jolly laugh. Hold yourself, boy. He has all the dragons under his thumb. We'll need an army to defeat him, but if I'm correct, he will be planning to visit this island again. So you have a plan? Toodles asked happily. Indeed, but first I want your approval. King Atmos had his men, Zalilia, the pixies, and the Lost Boys huddled together. Zalilia sat with the Lost Boys around a flickering fire. They laughed and told jokes, celebrating the tree's recovery. All the pixies floated around them, keeping themselves busy by playing with cute little Evan. Evan was running around the group when suddenly a butterfly landed on his nose. He went cross-eyed, trying to look at it, and then he sneezed. The butterfly flew off, and he chased it down. The pixies followed him, his safety meaning the world to them. Tink rode on Evan's back as the other pixies had to struggle to keep up. At times, it was hard to act casual when Hook was bound to come, but the Lost Boys found ways to entertain themselves and the princess. As Nibs told the stories of Peter's many blunders, there was a strange gust of wind directly above that beat down on them, blowing out the fire. The group stared up to see the bottom of Hook's ship. The pixies hid and yanked Evan inside the tree with them. The lost boys stood to their feet with Celilia, unsure of what would happen next. Distracted by the ship, they failed to notice two large red dragons zooming in from the side with a net wrapped around their claws. The dragons scooped the entire group into a bundle and hauled them to the sky. The net broke open and they tumbled out onto the deck. The crew grabbed a hold of the boys and Celilia. The group struggled to break free, and then the captain's cabin doors flung open. Hook marched out, polishing the hook he had in place of his missing hand. He walked down to the main deck and looked at the boys and Celilia, noticing Peter wasn't there. He spat in her face and asked, "Where's Peter Pan?" "Who's Peter Pan?" she asked. Hook raised his silver, sharp hook along her face. "Don't play dumb with me. All of you are his little friends, are you not?" "Not," one twin said while the other added, "Us." Curly chuckled, his cheeks tight. "Yeah, you think we like Pan? I put loads of salt in his breakfast." "What kind of friend does that?" Hook took out his sword and pressed it against Curly's large belly, a fat one. "Now tell me where he is. And if you do, you'll be a part of my crew." "Is that all you can offer?" Celilia asked, annoyed. Taking an uncontrolled breath in, Hook glared at her. "Fine, how about this? If you tell me, I won't make you walk the plank." He nodded to Smee. Smee smiled as he walked to the front of the ship and set out the plank that would lead straight into the unseen dragon's mouth. All the crewmen grinned and chuckled, wanting to see how this would end for the group. "Perhaps you would like to go first, miss." "Wendy," Celilia responded, yanking away from the man that held her, "and I would be honored to die for Peter Pan." Freely she strode to the plank and jumped off before anyone could say anything. Hook was taken aback that she did it without any second thought. She was certainly dead now, but of course, in truth, Peter saved her last minute. All of this was a distraction. Who else doesn't have a caring world? Hook asked, looking at the rest of the boys, then he noticed Toodles shaking. He walked to him and got in the boy's face. "Where is Peter Pan?" "Peter Pan, he's..." Toodles forced an obnoxious sob. "He died." Michael, John, and Curly joined in his crying. All of the men were shocked by this, including the captain who wanted them to just shut up. He couldn't stand children when they cried like this. Slightly and Nibs took their chance and broke free. Slightly slipped through the guy's feet that had been holding him. Nibs did the same, and they climbed the ropes of the ship as attention was drawn to them. Their goal in climbing the ropes was to give the others the signal. Peter, who had been hiding under the ship, made his appearance with Celilia, leading the King's Knights with King Atmos beside them. Hook's jaw dropped as Peter landed on top of him while the knights took out the rest of the crew, freeing the lost boys. For all their big talk, the pirates were ill-prepared for the attack. Peter pointed his sword at Hook. "Surrender." Hook laughed. "You think putting me in a prison will stop me? I'm the Dragon Lord. I have an army." "Yes, we know that. And that's why our whole army isn't here either. They are chaining up your dragons as we speak. Those men are lambs to the slaughter. The only way they'll make it out alive is if you kill me." Hook said, "Kill me with the crocodile." "Go ahead. I know it's my doom. The Creator herself warned me that my end would come from that blade." "And you didn't listen at all," Peter said, backing away from Hook to let him stand. Peter then tossed his sword to the ground. "I have no intention of killing anyone as you have done to my people. Staying a pure youth, eh? Perhaps that will be your undoing." The captain gave in to his dark side and took the sword Peter had dropped. The twins, who were to the side of Hook, quickly tripped him as Peter flew into the sky. However, as Hook stumbled forward, he went too far and fell off his own ship's edge. Everyone dashed to see where Hook landed on the island below. The fall alone was enough to kill him, but they saw his sword stab him during the fall. Most of them looked away. It was never appealing to see someone die, even if they were a horrible person who deserved 1,000 deaths. Hook's tumble ultimately reminded Peter how hard it was to live and how easily life was taken away. There had not been a grand showdown between him and Hook. No, Hook merely fell and choked on his own words. King Atmos sighed and said, "It's over, finally." He looked at the twins and bowed to them. "One of you is the new Dragon Lord." Slightly crossed his arms in disbelief. "Twins? I think you're mistaken." "Shut up," Nibs said to Slightly, stepping on the boy's foot. "Not everything is an honor." Slightly looked down at Hook's body and felt a twist in his stomach. Nibs was right, as always. And Slightly finally got it into his thick head why he was kicked out of knighthood. He was too reckless and uncaring. If he wasn't careful, he would end up like Hook. "From now on, the two of you will watch over the dragons," King Atmos said to the twins. "That being said, we should check on the others." King Atmos turned to one of his knights. "Remove the body if you will, then go tell the queen what happened." The knight nodded and flew out to do as he was told as the twins figured out who had gained the power of the Dragon Lord. Then, the twin who obtained the power commanded the dragon to fly away from the island. The ship moved and they could hear the flapping of the dragon's wings. Everything was changing and nothing would be the same.